A third party made me reveal the truth about us. Last night, I told the third party that you are not my. This message is for you. I do not know how you found your way here today, but I know there is something inside your heart that has been restless. Maybe you have been asking questions no one seems able to answer. Maybe silence has become louder than words. Maybe distance has made everything feel confusing, heavy, and impossible to understand. But listen carefully. There are truths that cannot stay hidden forever, and last night, something happened that changed everything. I never thought I would say these words out loud. I never imagined I would sit there, looking into someone else's eyes. While they kept asking questions about us, questions I tried so hard to avoid, questions I thought I could bury beneath distractions, pride, fear, and time. But the truth has a strange way of finding its voice. A third party made me reveal something I had been carrying in silence for far too long. At first, I resisted. I laughed things off. I changed the subject. I pretended not to care. I acted as if your name no longer had power over me, but the more they talked, the harder it became to hide what was really sitting inside my chest, because no matter how much time passes, no matter how many walls I try to build, there is something about you that refuses to disappear. And last night, I finally said something I had been afraid to admit. I told the third party that you are not my past. You are not just a memory. You are not simply a chapter that ended. You are not someone I forgot. You are not someone I replaced. And you are certainly not someone I stopped thinking about. The moment those words came out of my mouth, everything became quiet, because for the first time in a long time, I stopped pretending. You see, people think moving on is simple. They think time automatically removes feelings. They think silence means healing. They think distance means forgetting. But what they never tell you is that some connections do not disappear just because life becomes complicated. Some people leave fingerprints on your soul. Some conversations replay in your head at random hours. Some memories return without warning. Some names still make your heart react even after months, even after years. And yours still does something to me. That is the truth I tried to hide. The third party kept asking me questions. Why do you still care? Why do you still mention them? Why do you go quiet whenever their name comes up? Why do you act strong but look hurt? I wanted to deny it. I wanted to act unaffected. I wanted to say none of it mattered anymore. But instead, I sat there in silence, because deep down, I knew they were asking questions I had been avoiding myself. And eventually, without even realizing it, I admitted something I never thought I would. I said, they were never ordinary to me. Even now, I cannot explain why those words felt so heavy, maybe because they carried years of emotions I never properly expressed, maybe because they exposed feelings I worked so hard to hide, or maybe because admitting the truth means admitting the loss. Because losing someone who changed you is different. You can distract yourself. You can stay busy. You can meet new people. You can laugh again. But somewhere inside, there is still a part of you wondering, what if? What if things had been different? What if timing had been kinder? What if misunderstandings never happened? What if fear had not ruined what honesty could have saved? Last night made me confront all of that. The third party looked at me and asked, "If they came back today, what would you say?" "I wish I could tell you," I answered immediately. "I wish I could tell you," I sounded confident. But I froze. Because the truth scared me. The truth was too vulnerable. The truth made me feel exposed. Eventually, I whispered something I never expected to say. I said, "I would probably tell them I never stopped caring." And once those words escaped, there was no taking them back. Because sometimes the hardest thing in the world is not loving someone. Sometimes the hardest thing is admitting you still do. Even after confusion, even after heartbreak, even after silence, even after disappointment, even after pride convinced you to act cold, there are feelings that survive storms. There are connections that refuse to die quietly. And maybe that is what this has always been. Not easy, not perfect, not simple, but real, painfully real. I know there were moments when it felt like I disappeared. Moments when my actions contradicted my feelings. Moments when silence probably hurt more than words. But if there is one truth I cannot hide anymore, it is this: what I felt was real, even when I ran from it, even when fear made me distant, even when confusion made me inconsistent. Even when life became messy, the truth remained. You mattered, more than I admitted, more than I showed, more than I knew how to express. And maybe that is part of the tragedy. Sometimes people love deeply but communicate poorly. Sometimes people care but hide behind pride. Sometimes hearts understand things that mouths refuse to say. Maybe that was us. Or maybe I am only realizing too late what should have been obvious all along. Because last night forced me to stop lying to myself. The third party said something that shook me. They said, "You speak about them like someone who never left your heart." I laughed at first, but later, alone in the quiet, I realized something terrifying. Maybe they were right. Maybe no matter how much distance existed, some part of me never truly let go. Maybe every comparison secretly led back to you. Maybe every memory carried pieces of unfinished feelings. Maybe I kept pretending closure existed because admitting the opposite felt dangerous. And maybe, just maybe, the story between us never ended inside me the way I pretended it did. I do not know where life has taken you. I do not know what your days look like now. I do not know if you think of me sometimes or if I became someone you buried long ago. But I know this: last night changed something, because truth finally interrupted denial, and for the first time, I stopped rewriting history to make myself feel stronger. I stopped acting unaffected. I stopped pretending I never cared. I stopped convincing myself that silence erased meaning, because silence never erased what existed, it only hid it. And hidden things have a way of resurfacing, especially when someone unexpectedly asks the questions you were terrified to answer. The third party thought they were just having a conversation. They had no idea they were pulling years of emotions out of me, no idea they were exposing wounds I thought had healed. No idea they were forcing honesty out of someone who had mastered avoidance. But they did, and now here I am, unable to ignore what surfaced, unable to pretend, unable to dismiss what my own heart finally admitted. You were important, not temporarily, not casually, not accidentally. You changed something in me. and whether life brings people together again or not, some truths deserve to be spoken. This was one of them. Maybe I should have said it sooner. Maybe I should have been braver. Maybe honesty could have saved us from misunderstandings. But fear has ruined many beautiful things. And fear ruined parts of me too. Still, there is one thing I need you to understand, no matter how things looked on the outside, no matter what silence suggested, no matter what distance tried to prove, you were never meaningless to me, never, not for 1 second, not even during the moments I acted cold. Not even during the times I convinced myself to stay away, not even when life pulled everything apart, because feelings do not disappear just because circumstances become complicated. Sometimes they hide, sometimes they sleep, sometimes they wait quietly beneath the surface, but they remain, and last night proved that to me in ways I never expected. The truth came out, the mask slipped, the silence cracked, and suddenly, everything I buried stood in front of me asking to be acknowledged. So maybe this message found you for a reason. Maybe some truths arrive late, but late truth is still truth, and this truth is simple. You were never just someone to me, you were someone I carried quietly, even when I pretended I didn't, and maybe that is the part one should have admitted